Hi, everyone. I am Kate from Women's Health Network. I am so glad you're here to join us today. We are having a discussion about breakfast, the most important meal of the day, as we've all heard. And joining me on the discussion today, I have Naturopathic MD Dr. Sharon Stills joining us from Arizona. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. And we also have Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine, Amber Hayden, joining us from North Carolina today. Hey, Amber.
Hey.
Great to have you with us today.
Thanks.
So, pardon me, as I said, we all have heard that breakfast is maybe the most important meal of the day, but why is it so important to eat breakfast every morning? Amber, I'll let you start.
Okay, well, there are a lot of studies actually that have shown that your first meal of the day really sort of sets the tone for how you eat for the rest of the day. It provides that initial set of nutrients and energy you need for your concentration and for mood control. But studies have actually shown that by eating at the beginning of the day, you're less prone to get really hungry before lunch and before dinner, and so you're more likely to make healthy choices as well.
Okay. What about you, Sharon?
I think breakfast is really important for a number of reasons. One of the things that I really enforce with my patients is that it helps set up your blood sugar for the day. And so by eating a good breakfast with the proper foods and proteins, which I'm sure we'll get into later, that you stabilize your blood sugar, and so that you're not, like Dr. Amber was saying, you're not as hungry later on during the day, and it takes away those up and down moods and energy swings, and so it really gets your body off to a good start. And I think also from just a nurturing and an emotional perspective, it's telling yourself you count, you're important, you're worth being nurtured, and you're going to carve out some time in your morning to cook for yourself if you have the time, or to have something that's already prepared, and that you're going to sit down and eat it and just say, here's my fuel for the day. Just like you would gas up your car before going on a long road trip, you want to get the good fuel in your body for the day that you have ahead.
Okay, so lots of really good reasons, and it sounds like they're really research backed. So skipping breakfast is definitely not a plan. Even or especially if you're trying to lose weight. So one of the biggest obstacles that we hear from women as far as eating breakfast is that they're just not hungry in the morning. It's something that they just don't have that drive, and so it's easy to skip it on their way out the door. What do you typically recommend for these women who just don't have that appetite in the morning? Amber, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I look at why they are not hungry in the morning. There's a lot of reasons. On a just basic level, a lot of people are getting up really early in the morning, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and so our body is just not awake and alert to recognize those normal hunger signals. And so in that case, I usually say give yourself a good hour, hour and a half to sort of feel yourself out, but still lay out some time after that to try to eat something small to just get yourself aware of your own surroundings. Other reasons why you may not be hungry, though, include just something else going on in your body. So some women, when their cortisol levels are really high and they remain high, especially at night, can sort of have that sick feeling in the morning, and it's a pretty common sign of adrenal fatigue. Another thing that's more concerning is your blood sugar. When women have are on the road towards diabetes or are having blood sugar issues, in the morning's really when you're going to start feeling that. So if your blood sugars are really low in the morning or really high, your body will translate that into feeling sick and nauseous. And so it's really important that if you're really consistently feeling ill in the morning, that there isn't something else going on, such as diabetes. So making sure you're up to date on all your screenings and your checkups is really important. And then finally, just make sure you're taking care of yourself. A lot of times women don't feel hungry in the morning because they're still fatigued and they're not practicing the important sleep hygiene that they need, like sleeping in a dark room or even just getting an adequate amount of sleep. So those are all really important things to getting yourself hungry in the morning.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's an important recommendation, that there could be something else going on, and that following up with the doctor is really important in that case, just to make sure it's not just a matter of not being hungry. Sharon, did you have anything you wanted to add on to that for those not hungry women?
I think everything Amber said was really great. I agree with all of that. I think sometimes it's just about getting in tune with your digestive fire and also just seeing where you're at metabolically. And so some people are going to do better with something light in the morning, moving on to something heavier for lunch. So it's really getting to know yourself. And I think some of us are like kind of conditioned, if we're not hungry, to think, oh, that's a good thing. I just won't eat because now I'm going to lose weight and I can skip that meal and I'll skip those calories. So I think looking at a good morning routine, and like Amber was saying, seeing what time you wake up. And so maybe if you wake up and you're not hungry, I like to start the day with a nice glass of water with lemon in it, and it kind of just cleanses, because you may not be hungry because of sluggishness and your liver not detoxing properly. And so by doing that nice lemon water in the morning, it's kind of, hello, wake up, digestive fire, get stoked, and so on. And so maybe you do that, and then you go for your walk, or you do your meditation or your yoga, and then by the time you're done with that, you're ready to eat.
Great advice, and I have personally adopted that habit of the lemon water in the morning and then nothing else. Give it about an hour or so, and it's amazing. I feel like it really does stimulate the digestion in a great way. So, so good. So we're eating breakfast. Everybody knows they need to eat breakfast now. What should we be avoiding as far as our breakfast choices are concerned? Sharon, what do you have?
Oh, good. I was like, pick me.
I know, I saw you.
So, I like to say, what should you be avoiding? Anything you've ever seen advertised on TV that they tell you to eat for breakfast. So I have a nice long talk with my patients and with anyone I come in contact with about what we've been ingrained. We all, especially for my generation, we grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, and it was all the commercials, Lego My Eggo and Lucky Charms and all these sugary, sweet carbohydrates. And we kind of got brainwashed that breakfast comes from a cereal box, breakfast is pancakes, breakfast is toast. And so I like to tell people, think out of the cereal box. So eat your breakfast as if you would eat your dinner or your lunch. So you've got to kind of wash away the idea of breakfast foods and start thinking of breakfast as just a regular meal. We have to take away that breakfast is these special breakfast foods. You go to a restaurant and they have the breakfast menu and it only has waffles and eggs and pancakes and muffins, and it's the worst thing we can be doing to be starting our breakfast with. So what could we eat? I like to eat fish for breakfast, or vegetables, or sweet potatoes, or sometimes even a hamburger for breakfast. Of course, it's grass-fed and finished and organic, and I've cooked it myself. I'm not saying drive through McDonald's, but we really need to change our consciousness about how we're thinking about what breakfast foods are.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Sometimes I will be making my dinner the night before, specifically with leftovers for breakfast in mind. There are some things that they're so good in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amber, did you have anything that you wanted to add on to that as far as what we should be avoiding in the morning for breakfast?
Sure. The basic rule of thumb is you want to be eating whole grains in the morning. Like Sharon said, you're setting the tone for the whole day. You're setting yourself up for the way you eat and the way your body feels. And, I absolutely agree with her. Sort of taking the perspective of trying new things. One of my favorite things is to introduce greens early in the morning in the form of a smoothie. But just basic rule of thumb, if you're kind of stuck in that, well, this isn't a breakfast food, so I don't want to eat it, is going towards things that are more whole grain and more lean protein, like yogurt, Greek yogurt perhaps, with fruit as sweetening rather than the more sweetened yogurts, or even just making yourself that smoothie and throwing in some extra spinach, you'd be surprised that you don't even taste it, and it really gets your digestive system going and maintains your energy for a long period of time. I like to throw chia seeds into things too. It's sort of that hidden whole grain that a lot of people take for granted. It's got a lot of protein in it as well. So, take something that you enjoy and try to make it better. With the smoothies, if you're eating eggs in the morning, or if you're eating cereal, try eating cereal that's perhaps a little bit more whole grain, going for the granola over the, honey bunches of oats, or the Eggos. They even actually have Eggos or waffles out there by other companies that have quinoa in it. They have more whole grains in it, so that your transition is perhaps a little bit less painful. But definitely going for foods that are really solid and wholesome are more important than these high-fat, high-calorie foods. There's definitely a misconception. Well, it's breakfast. I can eat anything I want today, so I'm going to go through that drive-thru. I'm going to get that really sugary coffee. I'm going to get that really sugary, breakfast sandwich. They make breakfast sandwiches now out of waffles with syrup in it, and that's really not doing yourself any good, and you're really setting yourself on a downward slide for the rest of the day. If you're going to eat early in the morning, get your body geared up for that sugary taste, you're going to continue craving it all day.
Yeah, it's so interesting how so much of what we consider to be those breakfast foods, whether it's the cereal out of a box or pancakes with syrup or, whatever, even some smoothies. Some women will make a smoothie. I shouldn't say just women. Some people will make a smoothie, and it's, a banana and, strawberries and juice, and just blend it up, and that's just sugar central. And that's the homemade ones, not even as bad as what you're getting from a drive-through somewhere. But these foods that we've been conditioned to feel are appropriate at breakfast are basically the equivalent of a dessert. You could have a piece of cheesecake and probably nutritionally be a little more sound than what you're getting from some of these choices, because there's a little, protein and fat in there. So, yeah, I think it's just that those are great recommendations and great points to bring up. We're just thinking about breakfast in such an interesting American way. There's a lot of room to change that. So what about eggs? There are still a lot of people who are afraid to eat eggs. They've been kind of vilified. I think they're kind of making a comeback, but what do you tell your patients who are concerned about cholesterol and heart health and are therefore avoiding eggs? Sharon, what do you have to say about that?
I am a big fan of the egg. So I do preface that with, I do food sensitivity testing for patients, because there are some patients who may be outright allergic, which typically at a young age. If you have an anaphylactic reaction, you're going to know. But there can also be a sensitivity, and it may be to the white, it may be to the yolk, and it may be because you've been eating them too much, so you just need to take a break. So that aside, if you know that eggs work well in your body and you're not having a sensitivity to them, I think they're fabulous. I think we've been totally led down a ridiculous path, and I'm not sure who the marketers were who decided to make the egg the bad guy. But eggs are great. They're a great way to start the day. The cholesterol in eggs, I mean, it's good for you. We somehow we've decided that cholesterol is bad, and I have so many patients, they come in and I run vials and vials of blood work. I have 10 pages to report of all this really important stuff, and most patients, they want to know, what's my cholesterol? Because somewhere along the way, the billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry has made cholesterol the bad guy, and if your cholesterol is high, that's no good. And dietary cholesterol is not a bad thing. We need cholesterol. It's the precursor to our sex hormones, to our stress hormones. It's the big daddy. We need it. If we don't have cholesterol, we're not going to be building hormones, and then our lives are going to be in total havoc. And so it's not going to, in my experience has been that when we eat eggs, it doesn't really affect anything. As a matter of fact, it may actually raise the good cholesterol. And it's the food that we were just talking about, the pancakes and the sugary stuff and the grains and all those things, that's what's going to raise your triglycerides, and that's what's going to raise your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, or how I learned to remember it in medical school, it's the lousy cholesterol because it starts with L, and the H is the good because it's healthy. And so we shouldn't be afraid of eggs, and we shouldn't be afraid of the egg yolk. You know, there's that whole school of thought, well, I'll just eat the egg whites and I'll be healthy. No, 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 no. Nature made the egg with the white and the yolk, so nature knew what it was doing. Don't question your mother and eat the whole egg together.
Listen to your mother. Amber, how about you? What do you have to say about eggs?
Well, you know, it's an interesting, you know, eggs are a tough one because, you know, a lot of people see the amount of fat on the carton as well, and they're like, this tiny little egg has this fat in it. And like what Sharon was saying, it's good fat. We had originally felt that eggs were not healthy because of the high cholesterol, but it's found that the nutrients that you gain from that egg yolk far outweigh the risk you're going to get from eating that egg. And there are so many nutrients. You know, in my clinic here, we serve a lot of very poor patients, and what's one of our favorite staples to recommend because they're inexpensive and they're phenomenally healthy for you in terms of the nutrients they provide. The big danger with eggs is really danger with any food is how you prepare it and the things you put with it. So the area that you're going to get yourself in trouble is if you're frying that egg in unhealthy fats, canola oils rather than olive oil, and what you're using to fill or to flavor that egg. So putting salt in there is going to make it not great if you have high blood pressure, for example. The big one is cheese. Well, cheese is another one that is great. It's got good source of calcium. A lot of these omelets that we get at restaurants have about 2 cups of cheese in them. They also have about 5 eggs in them. And so everything is good for you if it's in moderation, right? And that's a big one. You know, 1 to 2 eggs in the morning is great, but 5 or 6, you're really asking for trouble simply because you're overindulging in too much of a good thing. And so, you know, one thing is to keep in mind is the size and what you're putting in there. It's great in the morning if you want to do an egg with a little bit of cheese and vegetables, but filling it up with, you know, 5 eggs with lots of cheese and bacon, and, you know, you're really asking for trouble. So just making sure you're preparing that food in a healthy way will keep it healthy because the basic egg is very good for you.
Excellent. Yeah, it's one of my favorites personally. I'm in the club, but also one of my favorite recommendations for women who, a lot of our women, especially who are struggling with, for example, hot flashes or some blood sugar issues, they don't know how to incorporate protein in the morning because they think protein and they think meat automatically. So eggs are a recommendation we make often, especially for the reason you say, Amber, because they are so inexpensive and just accessible. You can get them at the grocery store, or if you have, you know, a specialty market or a local farmer that you go through, you know, they're just everywhere. The other nice thing with eggs is that if you don't have time to cook in the morning, hard boil them the night before, and just you can take a hard boiled egg with you anywhere. That's kind of our one of our go-to protein snack recommendations. So so good. Eggs are back on the good side. I love to hear that. So yeah, and then just our final question was, I'm just curious, what do you have for breakfast? Amber, what was your breakfast this morning?
Oh, this morning, actually, so kind of going to that smoothie thing is I spent a lot of time creating my own little recipe for a healthy but tasty smoothie because, you know, they do have high sugar when they're filled with fruits and like sugary yogurt. So what I usually do is I have this little nifty blender, and I'll take a big handful of kale and just water, and I'll blend it and blend it and blend it until it's basically juice. And then I get some really dark berries, and I mix that with it. And then to sweeten it, I'll either take an apple or I'll take a banana, even just half a banana, and that gives it enough sweetness. And then I use the protein powder. Actually, the one I use is just a peanut-based powder, and it's you know, got the good fat in it, not the bad fat. It's low sugar as well. And I'll have that with, I like to do my own homemade granola bars in the morning because they're really fast and easy. So that's one of my favorite breakfasts is that green smoothie with a granola bar. But when I have more time at home, I always have scrambled eggs. It's my favorite. So.
Cool. How about you, Sharon? I know when we tuned in, you were still wrapping up over there on the west side of the country.
Show and tell time. Here's my breakfast.
What's in the dish?
It's actually some salmon with some onions cut into it. I've got some beet horseradish that I mixed in it, and it's delicious. So but I did start my morning with my lemon water, went over to the gym, got my workout in, and so I'm just, a couple hours behind you guys here. But I'm a big fan. I do sometimes recommend smoothies for patients. I do recommend that you not drink them so cold. The ice coldness of the smoothie is just, it shuts down, it congeals the digestive system, and it really puts out the digestive fire. So if you are going to have a smoothie, do it room temperature. And I'm much more a big fan of the green drink. And I used to do all my own juicing and only put like 1 carrot. Don't go crazy with the carrots because then you're just having a big sugar infusion in the morning. But nowadays, if you don't have the time, it's really easy to pop into whether it's Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or wherever it is and pick up a fresh cold-pressed green juice with kale and celery and parsley and spinach, and I like mine with a little cayenne in it. It gives it a little kick to it. So, but I'm a big fan, like I said before, of dinner for breakfast. So you'll see me baking fish in the morning. You may see me poaching eggs. I love the hard-boiled egg idea, and I do that too if I'm in a rush in the morning. I like to stir fry up some green vegetables. Sometimes I'll make paleo pancakes with a little bit of banana and some eggs. So there's a lot of ways to get creative. And I do think it's important for those of you that are watching that you mix it up. We all tend to have a habit of, oh, I love my smoothie and my hard-boiled egg for breakfast, and this is what I do every day. And that's not very good. It can kind of be a stress to your immune system, and you may start to create sensitivities where the things that you're eating that are healthy for you actually start to become a stress to the body. So try and find 4, 5, 6, if you can find 7 different breakfasts you love and that are unique and different. So maybe fish one day and eggs another day, and just mix them up so you're not getting into the rut of eating the same thing every day.
Fantastic advice. I feel like I am rotating between, on days where I have a little more time in the morning, like I said, starting with the lemon water, but greens, we've got all kinds of beautiful greens in season right now at the farmer's market that just opened. Some garlic and greens and some scrambled eggs mixed in. Today, when I know I'm not going to have more time in the morning, I'll throw together like a chia pudding the night before, chia seeds and a little almond milk, and then in the morning mix some nuts and fresh berries into that, and that's super, super easy. So we can put some of this, some of the breakfast suggestions on our website for anybody that's watching who's interested in checking out what we're eating for breakfast. But that's all the questions that we had for today. Ladies, did you have any final thoughts, or are we ready? I don't think that is a no. So that's our conversation on breakfast. Make sure to tune in and check out all the rest of the hangouts that we have coming up. We've got some great ones in line. And definitely head over to our website at womenshealthnetwork.com if you want to check out any of our other suggestions for how to maintain your healthy diet. So thank you so much for joining us today, ladies. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bon appetit, everyone.
Yes, bon appetit.